What's going on, Gains Associates, the community, Gains community? Thank you so much for being in our live stream right now. If you're rewatching this, thanks for watching the restream here. I really appreciate it. Everyone in the comment section, everyone in the community right now, there's a ton of people watching. We really appreciate you being here. Sorry about the lateness, my fault. I'm out here riding horses and doing cowboy stuff and stuff. If you're new to this channel, this is the Gains community channel right now. My name is Aaron. I'm just a cowboy and investing in the wild west of cryptocurrency. Got my own channels and stuff like that. I'm difficult to find, but I am a proud member of the Gains community. And today we've got a fantastic AMA today with a gentleman, Daniel from StrongNode. And if you missed it yesterday, we were in our Twitter spaces and we were talking with him and we were going through different questions. I was grilling him up some questions. And here's the problem with general YouTube crypto stuff is that we're always looking for great projects and great people to invest in. However, a lot of people like really shill, a lot of these influencers and YouTubers, they really don't try to push a difficult agenda. They don't ask them really tough questions. And this is where we're different. I get to ask difficult questions. And you, if you're in the chat, we want you to be part of this show to ask some of the most hard-hitting questions that we can possibly come up with, because we need to know, hey, who are we investing in? Are they a great project? And if you were there yesterday, it was a fantastic conversation, really big brain stuff. But unfortunately, that's Twitter space. But fortunately for you, we're here today. So big ups to Leslie in the chat, Ray in the chat. Thanks so much for joining us. And let me just introduce Daniel. He is he's an experienced business leader. He's been working in R&D. He's been working in computer development. He'll tell you more about it. But he's had a fascinating journey. And so I'm excited to hear more about that and more about StrongNode today. And be sure to list your questions. I'm gonna leave ample time in our about an hour here for the community to ask questions. Be sure to lay them in the chat and I'll try to keep track of them. Anyways, guys, thank you so much, Daniel, for being here with us today.
Hi, thanks you for having me today. Thank you for having me again. Love your cowboy hat.
Thank you. And I love the background there. It looks very tropical paradise there. So I know we're all trying to get there in crypto here. It's a bear bloody market out here right now, but we're trying to get to find the best.
It is a bear market indeed.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to know what are the best projects, and we want to know about StrongNode. However, could you tell us a little bit, quick origin story of who you are, some of the experience that you've, your journey along into StrongNode?
Right. So just to debrief again, as from yesterday's conversation, is that I've been computing since age 8 and got my first computer at 8, opened it up a week after I purchased it, or my parents purchased it. Back then, computers were fairly expensive, so opening it up and taking it apart a week after, buying a new computer, it kind of distresses your parents. And as a child, I was a pretty distressful child to my parents, and in that sense, I've always challenged them and never went against the grain. Never actually did the right thing, or always did something different in that sense. So with that said, computing since 8, got in trouble at an early age in computers of what you can do and what you cannot do. Started coding and started writing software, a lot of software. Started with basic programming languages, assembly, Turbo Pascal, C, C++, and all that good stuff. And just got really, I was just really into computers and programming. I was that kid in the back of your class reading computer magazines while getting all Fs on the report card type of deal, because he wasn't doing his homework and not studying for tests, but just learning how to code while everyone else was learning how to do math and stuff like that, or English or religion studies and stuff like that. So, but overall, I worked through different parts in the industry. I believe I was born in a unique time frame where computing was just about starting in the mainstream consumer public. And with that, the internet also took off. I think us being kind of the X generation allows us to be in both the analog world and the digital world, and us being in that computing and delivering and designing how computing and how computers should be was kind of the mainstay. And we were able to push the envelopes and be the wild wild west and define how we as consumers work with computers. And with this, as you can see, StrongNode is a telltale example of everything culmination of all the work that's been put into, whether if it's starting ISPs, launching satellites, to creating a decentralized type of internet in that sense, to make you know, fast gaming or high speed gaming in that sense, and privacy. It's required, and it's the culmination of all the experience that you get over your career. And well, over that career you work with great people, and at the same time, and those folks will follow you and working and will work with you on the next projects. And that's kind of how we are working. And this
Awesome.
is StrongNode.
Yeah, so I know you didn't go into it just now, but I want to really flex for you, and not that you don't have to do it for yourself. But yesterday, guys, he said that he started in ISPs. He launched two satellites for Japan in Japan, creating decentralized internet. Started Dreamcast, started games on Dreamcast, and really laid the foundational blocks for privacy on mobile. And I know that's just a brief summary, but yeah, Daniel, it was very impressive. Not that you got to impress us or anything, but that it was just such a long and great track record of. You said that you accumulated a lot of people who were bought in with you and who you work well together. This isn't like a bootstrap team. This is a team that has been together for a very, very long time. Is that all about correct?
That is correct. My CIO is I've known since middle school. The CTO is I've known since, MySQL, early MySQL, so well over 20 years. So
Wow,
for CTO, CIO, well over 30, 40 years. So yeah,
awesome,
so the relationships go long and the trust goes long too. They're like brothers from another mother type of deal. So
fantastic.
yeah,
And the
it's
success
it's,
has
it's
been there as well. Many successful exits from multiple different businesses. But we are here to talk about StrongNode. Do you think you could give us the general broad strokes on what StrongNode is and what you're seeking to accomplish here?
right. So StrongNode is a culmination of all our experiences, and being able to, when COVID hit, we were sitting around and we were thinking, well, what can we do? And the world's going to crap. And with the world going to crap and the economy falling, and everyone losing their jobs, and people being locked up in the pandemic, we were thinking, well, what can we do to, help change that world or the narrative, to, because this is going to have a ripple effect for a while. And with that said, we thought of a few models. We were always playing with ideas when we were always working together at MySQL, and saying, if we were to work on a startup, what will it be? And given that we were working and consulting with large, big five, top Fortune 100 startups at that time, whether if it's the Facebook, the Googles, we were looking at their data and how they were processing computes and the workflows and all that. And we were seeing how a lot of the queries are not optimized, and they were running into scalability problems and yada, yada, yada. And the list goes on. And hence, that's why we were able to get our evaluation to what it is. But we were able to get a firsthand look at what all these large Web 2.0 shops were doing and what they were doing wrong. And these were the best of the best of engineers. I mean, Facebook engineers, you can't get any better than that, or Google engineers. But we were the vendors of the database, so we were able to go in and dictate kind of whether if we need to develop feature and functionality, or if their queries are just bad and they just didn't know what they were doing. And so we went in there and we were the thought leaders, and really came in and worked with we were engineers for the engineers in that sense. And so it was kind of cool. So we had a broad spectrum of clients, right? Whether if it's the top web 2.0 clients, but we always had access, and we we met early day Zuck, and we met early day Google folks as well, and we worked with them and designed data models and stuff like that. So, with that said, what StrongNode is that we want to take your idle resources. We want to be able to not take it, but more, if anything, borrow. And the average consumer has around 2.5 digital devices constantly around them. I'm sure, Aaron, you have like a mobile phone, tablet, and a PC probably plugged in, charging, and probably not using. Yep, there you go. And it's not probably being used, and it's not being used to the full capacity. So let's say you had a binary that actually can share your bandwidth, and you could become an exit point for a lot of the users around the world. So a Ukrainian or a Russian who wants to be able to see the real news, or be able to communicate securely in a conversation. Well, the thing is that what StrongNode is, since we are an infrastructure company, we feel that we need to start designing the pillars of what Web3 is. And one of the pillars that we feel, and we strongly feel, and we are willing to die on this hill, is that first thing, privacy matters. Privacy matters, and all things must be encrypted at all times. We got here, crypto is crypto. It's cryptic for that very reason. And everyone has 0xXX type of accounts, and it's anonymous by nature. I value that. The fact that it is anonymous is great. And I believe that in the Web 2.0 world, that we have taken your identity and your data and we monetize it well too much. And with that said, it's a matter of now taking that control back to you. If you are your own identity, you should own your own identity, and you should choose to release your own identity. And so with that said, one of the things is the pillars that we want to stand behind is privacy. It is up to you if you want to know that you are Aaron and you are looking at the site and whatnot. And if you want to get paid, you get paid accordingly in Web 3.0 rules. So one thing that we wanted to do is first establish a pillar. And the first pillar is privacy. And we want to be able to give VPN for all and be able to provide exit points for all in that sense. And so you can pop out anywhere in the world and to be able to communicate in a secure form and fashion through other people's bandwidth and PCs. So that's big. And after that, the second phase of StrongNode is being able to redirect workflow processes. And now what this means is that we take your idle compute resources and we run big data onto it to do big data processing. And this big data processing can vary from genome processing to COVID analysis to machine learning. The list goes on. But the thing is that what we're seeing right now with the supply chain issues, and as well as just with macro events going on around the world, is that PCs are getting more expensive. It's not getting expensive anytime soon either. iPhones are growing more in price. PCs, the chips aren't available. But one thing that is for a fact is we all have 2.5 digital devices around us. And so what we have, we can reuse. And it's more of kind of an ESG, SDG type of nuance that we're trying to promote and pitch, that, look, work with what you have. And when new products come out, save money. In the meantime, earn StrongNode tokens by giving out your bandwidth or lending your bandwidth or your computes, and be able to process certain data sets. And this allows you to be able to not only help mankind, but also put a little bit of change in your pocket, maybe supplement your internet fees, because every dollar counts right now. And with this, we wanted to create a solution that allows the distribution of StrongNode tokens, but at the same time be able to provide low-cost bandwidth as well as low-cost compute.
Gotcha. Okay, so let me see if I could break that down. You basically two things here. One is you see a problem with privacy, or rather a pillar, as you put it, in privacy, and you want to create VPNs for everybody. And so with our idle, things, we want to loan out that bandwidth so that it creates an exit point for someone in another country to then take advantage of all the things, the different VPNs would have. Is that the first point summarized?
That's the first entry in our project or product.
Okay.
That will be.
the second one is a redirect workflow process, basically processing big data, and this could be a whole bunch of things. And you do that by taking our idle compute resources, and you borrow that, right? And then you process big data, and then that for me in turn, I'm not using it already, and I could earn StrongNode tokens back by letting you borrow that as a StrongNode. Is that about correct?
That is correct.
Okay, awesome. So it looks like I got it. Could you talk to us a little bit more about, before we get to some questions here, about some of your, like the product offerings, like what's StrongNode ID, and then maybe a little bit even, can you go a little bit more into the VPN, or
So
give
yeah,
us
for
more of
sure.
some of the product offerings.
Okay, so as an infrastructure company, we believe that in the current day infrastructure in the real world, infrastructure is telecommunication lines, their roads, their bridges, their ways that people can have logistics be made. And so, with that said, uh, we have created certain components that Web3 makes it possible. Three, and the fact that we're going to also borrow your computer and we're going to also borrow your network, we need to always know who's going to be using that said service. And then, with that said, we need to make sure we need to identify and authenticate. And so, with that, we created a solution called StrongNode ID. StrongNode ID is our offering where it's our solutions to what we call soulbound NFTs, or what Vitalik calls soulbound NFTs, to basically tether your identity or physical identity, whether it's a driver's license, birth certificate, whatever. The point is that it's part of the KYC process. You identify yourself, and once you identify yourself, it generates an NFT that is non-movable. And again, given that it's linked with your personal identity, it is non-fungible and it's unique. And then that is basically to identify you as the wallet, as the travel rule is now going into effect around the world. This is for thinking on our part that if we actually have wallets already tagged, that we are ready for the next bull cycle or the next regulatory cycle that we have. We're already compliant. It's all about compliance. And the crypto, if you address it early and you be compliant and you certify a lot of things, and whether if it's your binaries or if it's certifying certain services or even providing security at certain levels, it's allowing that trust, and we want to be able to establish that trust. And it's this act where we can actually tag each wallet and be able to then say, this is your access card or a key to get into and use the network and participate in the StrongNode network. And so StrongNode ID is an authentication mechanism. That's the toll booth, as you could say. The next is the bridge. We need bridges in that sense because we have multiple protocols that we will eventually be on. The next protocol, or the bridge right now is currently between Matic and ETH and Matic, and the net bridge thereon after will be through other protocols. And so we also are taking extreme effort to actually secure it, as well as certify it and also insure it. Because if any like key infrastructures, as we saw in macro events, is that people target bridges when they get, when you want to target infrastructure. So we want to make sure that people have an enterprise ready bridge, and that it's certified, it's bonded, it's insured, and it's been tested, and basically it's decentralized, and it has high availability. And we also want to make anyone who has the StrongNode IDs to be able to use this said bridge and have that backend access to the said networks, and be able to provide that as a service. Because these bridges or networks, they get congested, and why not have a bridge that you have access to by yourself or within the own community? So the idea is that we are developing infrastructure that helps drive community and helps drive growth of the community, and helps solve a lot of the bottlenecks that we're noticing when we started out in crypto. And of course, crypto is constantly evolving. And I think having access to said infrastructure that you own, because in Web3, we own property, we own parts of the internet. You can now then use this with exclusive access in that sense.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, so the ID is somewhat the toll booth, the entry point for the development of the privacy layer of what you were talking about. It's so important to you, and especially that workaround around those soul-bound NFTs and all that kind of stuff. So so the StrongNode ID is very important, and also the bridge. And I picked up three things. You want it to be insured, you want it to be certified, and you want it to be secured, because it's always constantly a point of attack from shady people. And so okay, I got you. I'm with you. I think we're going to take some questions from the community here. I thought this was a really good question. Thank you, Nadim. What is the criteria for one to be able to run a node on StrongNode?
So right now, the initial builds that we have internally is that it works on Windows PCs. So any x86-based processors. And then later on, we'll port the code over to Linux and Mac. And so anyone who has a Linux box or Mac can run this. And then eventually the roadmap states that we will go into mobile devices, and whether it's Android or iOS. And then once you get into iOS, you can get into iOS TV and then get into the TV that way, and Android TV from there.
Okay, got it. So right now it's developed in stages, Windows, and then further Linux and Mac, and then further mobile phones. Okay, got it.
Right.
All good. Now, could you tell us, I'm getting a lot of questions about the token. I'll bring up some of these questions after, but maybe you could talk to us a little bit about the broad strokes of what the use case is for the token, and then I'll see if that could answer some of these questions, and I'll bring some on specifically.
Right. So, of course, the general use cases of the token is, of course, for transactions, buying stuff. But the main one is actually staking. Staking it through liquidity pairing. The Matic SNE pool is really good. It's actually giving triple-digit rewards and awards yields. So I recommend that if you own StrongNode tokens and you have Matic laying around, it's a great time to pair it up and put in the liquidity pool and earn APY. That's another way. Another one is that eventually when we do release our binaries, and you can actually stake through our dashboard upon registering StrongNode ID, is that you can stake your StrongNode tokens and be able to not only establish your uptime, but also get more higher velocity in emissions. And this will allow you to earn more StrongNode tokens by staking. So we're trying to make a lot of hooks and mechanisms within our apps and services where people have to stake it so they can earn accelerators or kickers in the sense of earning more StrongNode, because the emission algorithm as it's currently will probably just supplement your internet fees. It will probably at most give you probably like $20 to maybe at most $40, depending on where you live and how much of your uptime of your PC. And that's kind of the average we're seeing in the emission. But if you put in stake your StrongNode tokens, you can get a multiplier effect on that. And that's kind of what we're train of thought and thinking. And this is initially for bandwidth sharing for the VPN aspects, but when we do for the computes, then there'll be a combination of more tokens if you stake it in and ensure your uptime and your capabilities. This will be able to then give you this accelerated earnings, similar to how other previous projects like Theta worked, and how you can do so and contribute to locking up your tokens and ensuring your uptime.
APY changes from day to day, but do you have a general, what's the sense of APY right now?
That's a good question. Let's actually look at a token farm right now. Hold on. Token farms is stating hold on one second. It's probably about 136 APY percent. So it's not bad. It's doing pretty well.
That's really good. What are your plans to increase the adoption of SNE, which is the StrongNode ticker?
So in So that's a two-prong aspects that we're actually going to go about. So not only is it getting more listings, but if anything, it is also doing AMAs like this, but as well as doing more community events and more giveaways in that sense. The API right now is 117%.
Gotcha. 117, folks. All right.
117.5.
So I'm seeing a few node questions here. So back to the nodes question. As a node operator, I want to know more about the various nodes that are there on StrongNode's platform.
So right now, the version that we are working on is the bandwidth sharing component. So you becoming an exit node, and becoming an exit node, you're sharing your bandwidth. Of course, this only does it and operates when you're not using it. So ideally, it turns on when you're asleep, and it looks at your patterns of usage on your computer, and based off that, it allows networks. So if you're watching a lot of Netflix, the thing is it won't it won't eat up all your bandwidth during your Netflix watching binge period.
Yeah.
So the thing is that it won't reduce it, so it gets that jitter, that video, and destroys the other user experiences on the network. So that's that, and that can be established by certain QoS and pings, and being able to establish how much of the bandwidth you have available, and we could shape your bandwidth in that sense and utilize accordingly. So with that, we don't saturate your bandwidth, but at the same times, we provide becoming an exit node, and being in this exit node by sharing your bandwidth, we probably right now we're seeing about $20 of emissions on the the prototypes that we've developed. Right now, we want to be able to work on the staking mechanisms where people can stake their strong nodes and earn more, and how that changes the math on the emissions. And so we also want to make sure that that can't be compromised, and that's it's secure in that sense, and or nor can it be gamed. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. So thank God for this bear market, because then we can work and develop this solution better and take our time. So so yeah, this bear market has been working well for us in that sense.
Good. In relation to back to the bridge and nodes question here, I've got we've seen many activities done by malicious nodes. How does StrongNode solve this issue for nodes to operate? Do you ask for KYC? I think I know the answer here, but I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah. So the malicious activity. So the thing is that there will always be malicious users on your network. One way or another, you can't avoid that. Now, the thing is that what we want to do to prevent someone from peddling child porn through your internet connection is something that, if we have your proper identity, and such activity has been filed, and within the filing period that it can be reported, then we will probably have those logs of who was technically, or who was using your PC at that point in time. But at that certain point in time, after those retentions of logs, it's gone forever. So the thing is that we do have a log retention policy as well, so we know who used the computer at one certain point in time. And the thing is that we want to mitigate those methods. But if it's tethered to your real identity, people tend to not do bad things. But there are stupid people out in the world who tend to do stupid things with their real identity, and with those people, that's where we actually have we could disconnect their privacy services in that sense, and boot them off the network in that sense. They'll still have their soulbound NFT in their wallets, but we can boot them off the privacy network, and basically they can't get on the network or report them.
Guys, if you are enjoying this AMA so far, be sure to give us a like on this video. Check out all the links of StrongNode in the description below. Let's just keep this going. I saw this early question here. Latif asks, StrongNode Edge has a 5-fold advantage. Can you talk to the community about this advantage?
So yeah, so the 5-fold advantage, I mean, you can see this on our webpage. That's marketing jumbo. But overall, the idea is, look, we live in difficult times, and we wanted to build a solution where we can offer a alternative for the cloud services like AWS, GCP, and Microsoft's web services. And so the thing is that with that, we wanted to also be able to provide a nexus of computing power that's powerful and low cost because it's by the people, and we otherwise it would have just gone down the drain if it not properly utilized. So be able to provide low cost computing for whether if it's machine learning or whether if it's certain data tasks that are required, and be able to process that. We want to live in a world where what we have we can retool, reuse, and re-earn, and be able to supplement certain things, because look, things are getting expensive, and how do we pay for certain things? Your pay is going down, things are getting more expensive. You need to either have a side hustle, or you need to make side passive incomes, or if you're not made it yet, you need to make some form of fashion of making money. And the thing is that, look, I've been there. I've been dirt poor too, and I know how to scrap the penny jar and stuff like that, and feel that pain. And so I wanted to create a solution where people can say, hey, look, I got a mobile phone, I got a PC, it's in my closet, or it's in that drawer, and I want to plug it in, install that, and just run it in the background. And my mobile phone doesn't too much battery power or electricity, or my PC doesn't either. Just run in the background. And enterprises can do the same thing, as their company has empty office space. Like if you go to San Francisco today, a lot of the .com offices lay empty, and they're just waiting for their leases to go empty so they can all work remotely. And so they just have computer desktop PCs on their desks, and it's really like ghost town land in San Francisco. And those PCs can have those binaries run and share that bandwidth, and they can the company can earn passive income. If anything, we're also throwing out regionality in the VPN aspects, where if enterprise can go, they can have their own personal enterprise, so employees can use it and have their own mesh and their own network in that sense too. So enterprises can have this as their decentralized VPN. As more companies are more working remotely, they need some form of secure layer of communications that can be trusted. And if it can be trusted that they are working within that region, then we can perhaps provide a layer of communications just in an intranet for them in that sense.
Yeah.
So there are different ways, because TCP/IP or IP can goes both for consumer as for enterprises in that sense. And so in that sense, the internet is very ubiquitous, and so we target that aspect.
As you were talking there, I'm thinking like, oh, I've got some PCs that are laying around here. I'm about to turn all my PCs at work on and start running StrongNodes.
And everyone has bandwidth now. Everyone has high-speed internet. So Wi-Fi is now there. So Ethernet cabling and making your house look dirty with cables is not a thing. It's the thing of the past. You just can plug something into the wall and just charge it and run it in the background and forget. So our model is install, forget, maybe check 3 months later and be like, oh, I earned that much. Okay, let's sell some. That's kind of the model.
Good deal. I don't know if you could check the chat, but guys, you are blowing up the chat with all these questions. I could hardly keep up. So I'm going to try to summarize a lot of these. I'm seeing questions about what's StrongNode doing in underdeveloped countries. I'm seeing questions about exchanges. Are you talking to anyone? Expansion strategies. How are you going to convince people? How will StrongNode survive? I saw one question with one word, basically, roadmap. Could you talk to us about the roadmap and maybe try to mix in some of these stuff that people are kind of questioning about? I guess the general expansion strategy for StrongNode.
Okay, so the roadmap, I'll be upfront with this. We are sandbagging our release structure. A lot of our builds that we have internally, such as the bridge, or whether if it's StrongNode ID, they're ready to go. They're packaged, the marketing narrative, the communications ready to go, the PR, the partnerships, the business around it, it's ready to go. We're just waiting for that first big green candle to show against BTC, and so we can see that the market has recovered. And we suspect that the market will we're seeing the technical analysis, and given that Bitcoin just dropped again, it's hard to tell. And I would suspect that we're going to see a turnaround in the market, maybe knock on metal or wood or whatever physical, is that probably November. But if anything, time frame wise, as we all know in crypto, it's never good to speculate on specific dates or anything. I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to give you any of that. But most of our binaries, most of our builds, whether if it's the StrongNode ID, whether if it's the bridge, whether if it's the VPN products or whatnot, they are either currently ongoing development or they're completed, and or they're going through certification and verification in that process, and or they're being worked on in business development channels where it's working on more partnerships where we can work. And there's been a lot of interest with StrongNode ID from a KYC standpoint because the writing's on the wall with the travel rule, as well as a lot of interest at the bridge level of people wanting to bridge to different things and having a secure, reliable bridge. And that's been really appealing to a lot of folks as well. And there's been a lot of interest. And so there has been revenue. And so, yeah, StrongNode will be around. Funny enough, though, StrongNode has not sold a token. Yes, StrongNode has not sold tokens. If anything, all our tokens, at least for the team side, we're locked up. We're locked up for 4 years. And we're taking this as an enterprise approach of how Google or Facebook would do it in the crypto world. But in the crypto world, we get grants and we give, we basically are locked up and we can't sell it. And so with this, we are just working on the basis of based on our investment from what you guys have invested in us with our IDO. And yeah, we are just constantly growing, but still at the same times, we are making revenues, whether if it's licensing or making the things. And so it is somewhat self-sustainable, but we are constantly developing and building partnerships and making any revenue, because the idea is we are focused on sales. It is revenue related, and I've always been a revenue related engineer and building stuff that makes money. And this is one thing that we're always constantly focusing on, and making sure that our bottom line is full in that sense, that we can always sustain a business. And because it is our time right now for us to build and innovate before all the tokens are distributed eventually. But of course, we have a 4-year plan for the distribution in that sense.
Gotcha. So maybe I could summarize some of those highlights for me, at least, that you are locked up for 4 years, that you're in it for the long haul, and that you're focused more specifically in a bear market to build and develop right now, and then more focused on expansion, because you said yourself you're sandbagging that stuff more. I would like to think of it more holding those cards closer to your chest, and then when the market starts, you're not trying to time the market, but when market conditions are a little bit better, when people are more willing to invest, more things, more information will drop. More, you'll push these around as being flexible with the current market conditions. But for right now, your priorities are for development. Not that you're not getting any revenue, but you're doing like whitelisting and partnerships and all that kind of stuff already. Is that about right?
Yeah, we're white labeling in that sense, not whitelisting, white labeling. So yeah, they are customers to our software and our code. So it's always good to be in the business of the picks and shovel business in the next digital gold rush.
Yeah, gotcha. Funny question. When I sometimes when I try to date a girl, I look at another guy and I say, look how much better I am compared to them. And that never really turns out too well. But that's essentially the question that we got here. The question is, can you point out some highlights of your project compared to other similar projects? And what gives you the confidence that your project will be more successful than theirs?
Well, I actually take light and I actually adore other projects like Theta. And this is actually a hello to Theta in that sense. We love their model. I love the team of Mr. Liu of Theta as well, and the team behind them, and they're great. I was an early investor at Theta as well. So, but the idea of, they are kind of in their line of, hey, let's do a gaming network of video streaming of gamers, and let's shower them with tokens and when they play well. But that's just kind of self-absorbing in that sense, where I think there can be done more for mankind, and not everyone's gamers either, or everyone's on a computer or has a computer or a digital device. At least let that be the entry, and let that be kind of more the general entry point, rather than if you're interested in game, and you are a streamer, and if you play good games and you have an audience, then you can learn Theta or T-Fuel in that sense. But so in that sense, a lot of inspiration was taken out from Theta. If anything, we do compete a lot against Theta on IP level because they do a very good job in R&D. They do a lot of innovation on their side. So I salute the team at Theta in doing a lot of R&D. They do a lot of patents, and they just are they're doing a lot of patents in that sector or around the crypto sector, and so in that sense we are competitors and we're patenting as well, and so we kind of tend to bump into each other in the patent field in that sense. So but aside from that, yeah, I think Theta AIOZ is another project that I love too. But anything that people can install, reuse what they have, those type of solutions, right? Whether if it's reuse and kind of share your bandwidth or your computes or whatnot. I love those type of solutions, and being able to create a purpose. That's probably where our value is and where we want to create that infrastructure for mankind or for the next Web3. And being an infrastructure for Web3, if the analysts say that it is potentially a trillion dollar potential market cap for this, then if we are an infrastructure player, I hope we can get a nice slug of that in that sense. But it's early days, and if anything, the project has to stand on its 2 feet, and it's all about the delivery and execution. It's just constant development of it and who you hire at the same time. So, and I guess to answer in from the previous question, what the roadmap is that, yeah, our roadmap is to constantly develop and hire great talent. And you'll see releases come out accordingly, but based off of market conditions. And this bear times, we don't want to make any real big announcements immediately or get on immediate exchange because it really doesn't change the token price. If anything, may reflect badly, if anything. So, we don't want to spend capital. Gate wants 300K for a listing. No, thank you. We don't spend money on that. That's crazy. And, I'm not going to give like 100K in StrongNode tokens to Gate because they're Gate. That's not how we work. I would love to get a Gate listing. So Gate, if you're watching, we're a pretty good project and we're here for the long term, and we have a pretty good community. So, I think I want to get listed on our own merits, and we're seeing like chats coming up on the right side here saying, "Hey, when is Binance listing?" Look, Binance listing, listing on Binance costs about $1.2 million. And that's a lot of money. And this is behind the scenes of the crypto world of getting listing and getting distribution of your tokens. Look, we're going to get there eventually, but I can't talk about it in our application process. It firmly states, do not talk about your listing process with Binance. And I can't talk about it. As much as I would love to talk about it, I can't talk about it. And so, yeah. But I'm not ignoring it. It's a big market, and Binance is a big market, and it is something that we are gunning for.
Awesome. Well, I think that's been a question here. I think that was answered with the roadmap question. Is like, hey, we are building. We've got all these things lined up, and it's not being ignored. And the fact that you can't talk about it means that something's happening back there in my brain. So that's funny. And the recent question about the competition. Simon Sinek, some author, he talks about how companies play an infinite game and a finite game. And when you play a finite game, you start competing against other companies. But it doesn't seem like you are too concerned. As a matter of fact, you salute other companies like Theta and doing things, reusing different computing powers around here. It doesn't seem like you are concerned about it. It seems like you are playing your own game. You're trying to build something and carve out something out of your own vision. I thought that was very reassuring for me. You know what I mean? It's not based on we're trying to beat them. We're trying to be the best that we can be. And I thought that was just very useful for, at least for me.
I don't want to be a Luna either and be able to, downsize a project either. I'm not that kind of guy. If anything, those other projects, they stand on their own. We will stand on our own as well. Mm-hmm. And I intend to do so. And, awesome. The competition is always great. But I don't see it as competition at this current time and place because we're still working on product. Once I have product and I start getting onboarding users, then it's on. Mm-hmm. Then it's totally on, right. Then we'll market the crap out of it. We'll do emissions. We'll do promotions. We'll do, it's then it's on. Then we'll trash talk data. No, just kidding. No, I love it. No, no, that's not going to happen. No, we love them all because it's the idea. I think repurposing tech is a good thing,
Yeah,
and instead of consumers just going and buy the new best thing just because they can and they should, and it's not right in that
yeah,
sense. I think people should use what they have because it is what they have,
yeah.
and they shouldn't over leverage in that sense. And that's what we learned from crypto: never over leverage yourself.
That's
And
right.
so,
That's right. Yeah, and I appreciate all of that. I've got a question here, maybe into the details. Back we go. Can you please explain to me the various components and features of the Edge Node product? How can a business or retail customer use it? And is it available right now, or do we need to wait?
let's answer the latter part. So, no, it's not available right now. It is early available in kind of internal, but yes, for public release, we need to wait. So, how it works from a business or a customer. So, from a business standpoint, the full product is that businesses can use this to reduce their computes. When I say this, is that AWS they charge like fractional of a cent or a cent or a few cents to get computes or run certain tasks on their network, and it costs money. And usually, you need to file a credit card, and it uses up that credit card. I think our AWS fees alone internally in our company is around 4 to 5K. And that's a lot of money for any IT company, and that's sustained, and that's on a monthly basis. And I want to reduce that cost. And we, as an infrastructure company, we have to actually have the power to reduce that cost because we actually own our own infrastructure, and so we can offload our infrastructure costs to the network in that sense. And so we've designed our workflow processes as businesses to use idle resources. And so this doesn't happen overnight. Naturally, it happens over a span of certain time. And with this, as customers or users go on and be participants on the network, they will share their computes, they will share their networks, and by this, they'll create a nexus or a grid computing model and incentivize people to be participant. Basically, in a nutshell, people install the app and forget about it until they see StrongNode tokens or wallets show up. I think that's probably mostly the pattern that you'll see here. But with that said, once they see the StrongNode tokens that they earn from either sharing their bandwidth or their computes, they can then either buy NFTs that we'll have, and we want to create an ecosystem, and we're not far from complete. This is ongoing development. This is at least easy 5 to 7 years worth of work that we have working against us, because we need to design those pillars that I said earlier, and one being privacy, and I think another one is being able to make the cost efficiency of things, and you as a customer or a user have many computers or one computer. It doesn't matter, because a compute is compute, and as long as you can process data, you can earn StrongNode. And that's the idea, and we want to go with that, and we'll probably offer other services, whether if it's more of like a Turing-based approach, where if you don't have the uptime of the bandwidth or uptime of the CPUs, but you still want to participate in the network by doing certain tasks. I believe that I want to introduce a Turing type of system where certain tasks, so it's like, go to my Facebook page, go to this link and click like, and then, or go to this YouTube place and just listen it for the next, listen to the whole thing and just get paid for doing a task. But it's a way for me to figure out creating an economic model and help upcharge a community and grow a community where people can make money, a network that can actually make money and earn money by either passively or somewhat actively by doing certain tasks and being able to provide value to the network.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm trying to make.
Awesome. Yeah, we live in a time where we could do that, right? We could then be paid back for adding value to any kind of network or service or clicks around or anything like that. I've got two last questions here. I want to go way up in the sky, 50,000 feet type of stuff. Okay. I noted that you said privacy was a hill that we wanted to die on. And I think that is such a strong statement for me. So I'd like to ask you a philosophical question. You obviously think there's a lack of privacy in the world, otherwise you wouldn't be developing StrongNode. There should be more privacy. What does a lack of privacy do to a society, and or the human race or an individual?
Well, I think humanity in general has progressed over time, and there's a lot of issues in human rights in general, but as well as racism and all that. But the world overall is not a nice place. I like to think that it's a nice place and people can communicate and we all get along and it's a Care Bear type of world, but it isn't. Um, whether there's malicious people, there's people that want to, do bad things to you, whatnot, yada yada. The thing is that it should be your decision, right? It should be your decision whether if you divulge that information. But kind of Facebook, or these Web 2.0, we saw a transition where we saw web servers going from HTTP to HTTPS,
Yeah.
and that was more of the latter portion of kind of Web 2.0. But now with services like Let's Encrypt and all that other services, that allows it to come up with SSL certificates and establish the secure connection. And that was more latter Web 2.0. This was an early Web 2.0, latter Web 2.0. But when we start Web 3.0, and it's about to start, and we want it to be secure, we want to change the model around where, if you go to a web page, there's a banner ad. And if you see that banner ad, people, the advertisers pay that platform. I think it's different. I think if you stand in front of an advert, there's a sieve on top that gives you tokens, and that token, however long you look at that advert, it gives you tokens. There's a cap on that, how much you can earn off of looking at an advert. But I think it should be direct to consumer in that sense from advertiser. So if an advertiser gets your eyeballs, it pays you directly. I think this world of Web3 is more direct. It takes the middleman approach out, and it has to be more decentralized in order. Whenever you have middleman, that means it's centralized, right? Because it's middle center. So the thing is that you want to always take the middleman out. And so whether if it's advertising, you want to be able to get from that direct from advertisers. If you're standing in front of, let's say, an advert in a metaverse, yeah, you should definitely get paid by looking at it. And that's how we're seeing that Web3 will change in that sense. And so then that's and one of the pillars is ownership, and that's how ownership is probably given. So if you own a building in a metaverse and that building has a video screen and that video screen has an advertising streaming, and then the person looks at that advertising streaming, then hence, yes, should get paid. And so with that, that's kind of the model that we'll start seeing in the change of Web3, whereas Web 2.0, it was the entities like Facebook and Google making all the money, and that's not exactly fair.
Yeah, I think that's something I didn't think about, was the pairing of privacy and ownership together, and what that means for the person who owns. And so I thought that was I think that's a very deep thought for me to think for the day. Guys, if you enjoyed this AMA so far, thank you so much. Give us a like on this. I'm going to give Daniel the last bit. A lot of these questions, kind of, if you guys want to rewind, have been answered throughout the AMA in one sense or another. But Daniel, thank you so much for being with us. Guys, check out all the stuff down below, all the links for StrongNode. I'm going to give you the last say here in our final stretch here of the hour. If one last thing about StrongNode, if you're like one last call to action or one last thing for us to think about as a Gains community, what would you leave us with?
So I think, we're in the very early beginnings of Web3. So if you're looking and talking about Web3, you're early. And that's good, because what we learned from Web 1.0 and 2.0, being early does pay. In the sense, whether if you are the Facebook or if you are, what's the other one? I forgot the other social network. Well, given that shows you, that shows you the example.
TikTok,
but the thing is whether it's an early example or whether if it's the second mover advantage, the thing is that you're in it early and you're here now. And the thing is that learning those building blocks of what Web3 is important. And there are certain things, it's completely the wild west right now, Web3, where it's not yet to be determined. The blueprints are not there. The structure, everyone's theoretically talking about how it should be designed and structured. And if opinion leaders are there to state how it should be, I think everyone so far agrees privacy should be key in Web3. And that's the cryptic nature of crypto allows it to be that. And so we want to embrace that and embrace it further, because it's cryptic by design. and we want to be able to leverage it. And also, it costs more money to identify you anyway, so we want to be cheap and keep it cryptic. So
Yeah.
that given that, it should be anonymous and it should adhere to privacy rules. And I think everyone who looks at Web3 agrees with that. And so I think that's a good part. And I think the other pillars will start coming out. I think there's another pillar is a DAO, another pillar is all different things. And so yeah, that's kind of how we are looking at it. And it's a long haul. It's a long development cycle that we're going to go in. And it's not a quick buy, sell, flip type of opportunity. This is actually utility. When you do have SNE tokens, you can actually pair it, or you can stake it, or you can stake it in the binary and earn more StrongNode tokens. So it will have utility. You can use it for other aspects later on when we have the Turing-based service. So if you have more real-world approaches, like, hey, I need 50 likes, guys, can you give it to me? Here's my bounty for that. Go get it. Or something like that. And I people could use views or likes or something like that, and that's something simple that we could develop and get out the door fairly quickly, regardless of bull or bear cycles. That just allows our tokens to be in transactional, and it's only as good as the people in the network. So, if anything, this should help drive the community growth, and it's all about daily users for me in that sense. And I want to be able to get an app that has high DAU and MAUs in that sense, and be able to get in the top 10 in the App Store type of model. But look, this is not going to happen overnight. And this matter during bear cycles we develop, and during bull cycles we promote, and we go outbound. So in that sense, right now we're an introvert and we're just developing, and when the bull cycle comes around, we'll become the extrovert that we always love. And we plan to do more of these AMAs, and whether they be video, Twitter, or Telegram, we'll be out there. And we're going to be doing like 3 next week, and we're going to be doing 3, and we're just ramping up with all of the AMAs, and we're getting the word out there. It's my promise to you as investors that I will get my word out there. I will get to the developing countries, and the idea is to get into the Vietnams, to get into the developing countries in Africa, and get them to use StrongNode and be able to get them the supplemental income that they could perhaps pay for XYZ to get to buy their days. I want to help build something that helps make a difference for people. And as it's a culmination, all this is a culmination of everything that I've worked on to this date.
Awesome.
So,
and we're here in it for the long term, as Chrysius says. As Daniel said, we are early, and we're here. And so, guys, thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. Check out all the links down below. Give us a like on this video. Hit subscribe to the Gains channel. Daniel, thank you so much for all the knowledge and the wealth of experience that you're bringing to the table. We're here in it with you for the long term. Excited to see what the future years come up for StrongNode. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in the next stream. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone, and for your consideration.